Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to Mystical Munchies featuring the Dungeonmeister Cookbook. I didn't much like the marshmallow golems from last week, so now we're on to the entree, Diamond Soul Food, which these look to be loaded breakfast biscuits. Yes, as the nature of the recipe suggests, this is slated to be breakfast for today. First up, let's tell the story. Even the most hardy and stalwart monks feel hunger pangs, and these soulfully loaded biscuits provide the stunning repast any disciple of the Fist needs to load up on calories and ki for a long day's adventuring work. Well, we'll find out how good they are at that, since the ingredients, as usual, are waiting for us at the table, so let's head in that direction. For this recipe, we're going to need a pound of breakfast sausage. I'm using sweet Italian sausage for that. 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of baking powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 4 tablespoons of melted salted butter that's been divided, 4 large eggs beaten, a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese, and 2/3 of a cup of low-fat milk. With the ingredients all set, let's move into the kitchen and start putting this recipe together. You'll probably hear the oven chirping over the course of this recipe. We've got the oven heating up to 425 as usual. Not as usual. We've got it heating up to 425. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to take a cast iron skillet and cook the sausage over medium heat until browned through, about 7 minutes. Then we're going to drain it. I normally brown on high heat because I want it to be done as fast as possible. As you can see, it actually started to brown a little bit when I was defrosting it in the microwave this morning, because it was still frozen when I got home from the grocery store. So, we're going to set the heat. We want this burner. I'm going to brown on high. And we're going to just drop it right in. Okay, also making sure I get the paper there off. Okay, that's all handled. Hands off real quick. I'm going to grab the aluminum foil out of here because I'll need that for a later step in the recipe. Well, technically I don't need it, but I'm going to use it in a later step. I'm going to start working the sausage apart. If I was thinking a little bit further ahead, I probably would have grabbed the breakfast sausage when I did my grocery shopping yesterday as part of my Friday prep. But since I wasn't thinking ahead, we got to make do here. Okay. Oh crap, I think I started the wrong burner as usual. Yeah. Ow! Even having it close to the Even having my hand close to the wrong burner was enough to make my hand recoil a bit. So now that we've actually got the right burner started up, this should start moving a lot faster. It's not the first mishap I've had in the kitchen, and I can guarantee you it won't be the last. Okay, now that I've got the right burner on, now it's actually starting to sizzle. It's actually not making terribly much grease, so I don't think I'm gonna need to drain it most likely. Yeah, that's not really, like I said, this really isn't kicking up enough grease for me to have to necessarily likely worry about trying to drain it. And I think that is pretty well browned all the way through. So I think with that in mind, I'm going to kill the heat for now, take that off, using one of my new hot pads. Ooh, Mom did a great job with these. So we'll take that off the heat, put that off to the side for the time being, And then we'll move over to the oven, we'll move over to the counter for the next step. Right as I turned the camera back on, the oven just came up to temperature. So with that in mind, now we've got our large bowling shots. Now we're going to combine the flour, baking powder, and salt. So we'll get our 2.5 cups of flour out, which I've got the flour right here just off shot. I've got my 1/2 cup measuring cup. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's see if I can get 5 out of here before I need to pour more flour in. I think I got it. I'm actually going to go ahead and pour more flour in right now while I'm thinking about it, since I've still got my bag of it. Which I'm going to move that over to the sink so it's a little bit of an easier pour. I will almost certainly need more flour for next week's recipe, but I'm getting ahead of myself on this one. Anyway, the flour can go back up. Alright, next up we want the tablespoon of baking powder. A little bit of a heaping tablespoon, but not terrible. And 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. One, 2, and 3. Okay. Salt can go, what the? Not sure what that is, but I can hit the bin. Anyway, now we'll combine the flour, salt, and baking powder. Okay. Now we're going to add the sausage to the flour mixture. Now we're going to add the sausage and stir to combine. Let me grab one of my hot pads. Whoa, okay. This is not too obnoxious, I don't think. Whoa! Ah! Actually, it was starting to prove to be a little bit too heavy. Get as much of the sausage bits out as we can. Bring that back over. I'm going to put that in for a minute, even though while I will be stirring it to combine. But I want to see if I can break up a little bit, if I can wipe up a little bit of the stuff of the part of the pan that fell in. Okay, I think we got it there. We'll put that back on the burner. Now we'll go ahead and stir the sausage mixture in. Okay. We'll put that aside for the time being. Then we're going to move back over to the stove. Now we're back to the same skillet that we used earlier to create the sausage. So now we're going to take 2 of the tablespoons of the melted butter, which I've got right here. Grab a spatula. See if we can get more of this out. All right. We'll spread the butter around a bit. Okay. Then we'll bring the eggs in. And we'll cook those to a soft scramble is what we're going to go for here. We may get little bits of the sausage in here, but I think that's probably fine. Just getting things situated for the next step of the recipe once we get the eggs to where we want them to be. Should be about another minute or two before we're ready to move back over to the counter. Meanwhile, I'll start getting things ready for the next step of the recipe. Here we are. Trying to get the cheese ready, but it's not wanting to cooperate with me for some annoying reason. I think I gotta cut it a little bit lower so I can get at the Looks like I gotta come down here. There we go. Took me a few cuts, but we got it. Okay. That looks to be about where we want it to be. So now we're going to move over to the, we're going to kill that. We're going to move straight over to the counter, where we're going to bring the egg mixture in, hopefully minus me having the pan fall in again. Okay. Perfect. This time, whoa. I'm going to put that on the, I'm going to leave that on the stove for the time being, because I don't think I want to put it down on an uncovered surface. So now we're going to stir it in with the sausage mixture to combine everything. Okay, now that we've got that combined, now we're going to go for the last two ingredients. So now we're going to add the cheese and milk, and we're going to stir until we get a slightly sticky dough forming. So here's the cheese going in. It's the sharp cheddar cheese, which is why I was having so much trouble cutting open earlier. Oh, okay, that'll work. And 2/3 of a cup of milk. Okay, I'm going to leave the milk here just in case it still seems like it's being a little, in case it still seems like a little too solid. I can pour more in if I think I need it. Which, as a spoiler, which I kind of figured was going to happen. So we'll drizzle in a little more. Okay. Got a little bit more down here. I'm going to drizzle in a little bit more milk just to get that. Okay. I think we got all of it now. So now we need the baking sheet in shot. Alright, so now we're going to take the biscuit mixture and we're going to drop ideally 12 even scoops onto a buttered skillet or a baking sheet. I've got a baking sheet that I've sprayed down with cooking spray, As usual, I'm going to do the first one on camera, then I'll turn the camera off to do the rest, and we'll come back to take a look at the finished product before it goes in the oven. So I'm going to back up here a little bit, grab a spoon, and we'll see what we can do about scooping some of these, scooping the first biscuit out. That's going to be a pretty big biscuit, but we can probably just go ahead and do all of these on camera. This shouldn't take too long. 2. They might not be even, but they'll be as even as I can make them. 3. 4. They might also very well be on the bigger side. 5. 6. Oh yeah, these are going to be on the bigger side. 7. 8. 9. 10. I can probably split a couple of these down. We'll leave them. They're probably about the same size anyway. And most of the stuff got used anyway, so all good there. That can move to the dishes. Now we want to put these in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes until they're lightly golden brown and a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. So I'm going to bring the camera out of the way so I can put these in the oven. And I'll set a timer for 15 minutes. So we'll come back with our first look at the finished product. Let's set the timer. And now we'll come back with the timer set for our look at the finished product. The biscuits look great fresh out of the oven. I put them all through the toothpick test and the toothpick came out clean on all of them. So now we're going to take the other 2 tablespoons of the melted butter, brush the tops of these biscuits. So I'll just do this on camera. This shouldn't take too long. I want to try to make sure I get all this butter used if I can. All right, we'll maybe drizzle this a little bit more. Okay. All right, I will drop these into the dishwater. Then I'll plate a couple of these and we'll head over to my desk for the taste test. I've got a couple of the biscuits over here. I decided to grab a fork since I will be having other things with breakfast anyway. So let's give this a taste and see what I think. Another recipe I'm really happy with. Obviously, the type of sausage you get will make a difference in terms of how spicy it is. If you grab a hotter variety, obviously it'll give you more heat. Again, as I've made no bones about in the past, heat and I don't get along very well. You don't really notice the cheese too much, I don't find, but you only use a cup of it and it's spread over what's supposed to be 6 servings. So just more food for thought there. Before I can have breakfast, though, we have one other loose end to tie up because I got a delivery in yesterday, so we need to adjourn to the game room so we can unbox that. This delivery came from a company on Etsy called, what is it? Looks like it's BG, I think it's called BG Expansions is the company. Yep, they're based out of the Netherlands from the looks of the customs declaration on here. So let's get this cracked open and see what we've got in here. Okay, looks like we had to crack it here as well. Otherwise it's a lift box like I normally like. Oh, that almost had problems. Closing the knife. And we'll see in here that we're greeted by void fill, but we're also greeted by an upgrade kit for heat pedal to the metal. It's got shifters in here, you've got spectator, actually that's cameramen, and there's a start finish line in here, so that's actually really cool. And this is very timely, but I'll talk about that and I'll talk about that a little bit more now that that's another episode of Mystical Munchies in the books. Next week on Mystical Munchies, we'll be making the dessert Bones of the Dead, Touch of Death, which looks to be Bones of the Dead cookies. As far as the games go, tomorrow we're continuing the spring campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game, as the Dreamers have their second scenario as they go on their search for Kadath. Wednesday, this stuff will come in handy as we play Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.